Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to day one of our Goal Greatness Challenge. I'm just going to give a few more people some opportunities to join in here so that nobody misses anything, obviously, because we don't want to miss anybody. So, hi, Toby. Nice to meet you. Thanks.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Looking forward to learn something from you.
Good. I'm hoping I'll teach you something.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You better not lie to me.
I will. I promise I won't lie to you. I promise I won't lie to you. Now we got a good couple of days ahead. I've broken up the challenge into bite-sized pieces so
Good.
that hopefully you get something out of each day. But then as we work towards the end of the week, you actually come away with it with a really good plan. But I'll bring everybody up to speed by the time everybody gets here. We'll give everybody another minute or two because I know that we tried to schedule this so that people could sneak this into their day and make the most of it. So we'll definitely do that. And hi, Kate, welcome to you. And hi, Mariah, welcome to you. We'll let a
Hi.
few more people join in. And I'm hoping all of you will have received the workbook. So please ensure actually that you have the workbook with you so that as we go through things, obviously I'm going to guide you through it and I definitely take you through some of the steps. But then once we're actually knee deep into it, you'll actually use it to facilitate typing in and connecting to your content. So hopefully that'll just make your lives easier. And I've actually had a couple of people email me just asking for the link. So apologies if you receive this again, this email, but I just want to make sure everybody has the link. There we go. Got another person in. So we'll just make sure everybody's settled. It's a couple of minutes after the hour. So I think if it's okay with you guys, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Hi there, my friend. So first of all, thank you very, very much for joining me today. And, I put this challenge out there because we're at a good point in the year to do a reevaluation, a bit of a refresh, and a bit of a review of the goals that we set for ourselves over the course of the year. It's so normal for us in January to say, these are the goals that we want to achieve. And then at certain midpoints throughout the year, it's a good opportunity for us to take a step back and actually do the check in. We kind of do this intuitively, and often our rhythms actually are very much in sequence with our very historical school rhythms. So you sort of set a set of goals in January, do a bit of a check in March, April, then you do a check in again, kind of June, July ish, as you're at the point in the year. And then, believe it or not, you do another check in September, just before you're then hitting into the fall season, where again, you're going to start thinking about your goals for the following year. So we sort of have some innate and intuitive points in the year. I kind of thought this was a good opportunity for us to come together. We're at a bit of a one of those crossroads. So it's a great chance for us to do that check-in, but it's also a good chance for us to, whether you're checking in or you're establishing some new goals, to really look at the process that you have in place for yourself to ensure that you achieve, success with your goals, that you by the end of whatever trajectory that you set for yourself, that you're checking your goals off the list. All of us have goals and dreams. Let's be honest. All of us have a list of things that we want to achieve over the course of our day, week, month, year, life, you name it. The challenge really is that we often will say that we want to do something, but what we sometimes fail to do is then lay out all the pieces of the puzzle and the key milestones that we need to put into place to actually achieve those goals. And which is kind of funny because we so quickly do this for our work life. We're such great project managers at work. Somebody gives us a deadline or gives us, the launch of a product or something that needs to be done for the organization internally or externally. And we automatically go into milestone planning. Like we automatically put a whole project plan in place with critical dates, who we need to connect to, and what we need to do to get it done. And yet when it comes to our personal lives, we often don't do that due diligence. And yet this is the most important area of our entire being, is actually managing our personal lives and managing what we personally want to achieve. And yet for some reason, we either put our goals on the back burner or we don't give them what they deserve in order to come to fruition. So maybe we have to think of it as, paying ourselves first. You hear this when you're saving money and when you're trying to, establish a good financial plan. Why don't we apply some of that same thinking to achieving our goals and achieving what really, really matters to us? So that's what we're going to talk about over the next couple of days. We're going to meet for the next 3 days over the course of the next week for about an hour each day. I've really tried to put this into bite-sized pieces for you. There's going to be things that we're going to do each day together, but then you're also going to go away and think about this. It is actually in the thinking about, in the rumination, that you're going to further clarify your goals, what they really mean to you, and then how to best incorporate achieving them in your life. So there will be some takeaways, and that's also why I've given you some time from meeting to meeting so that you can actually do some of this foundational work so that your action plans truly become something that you can easily incorporate into your life. So the very first day we're going to just do, which is today, we're going to do some groundwork and clear away a bit of the clutter and start to really work on that list of goals, because we all know we have a list of goals. And then the next time we meet, what we're going to do is start to look at the goals a little differently. Often what happens is that we create this amazing list of goals, and they can be anywhere from 10 on a page to hundreds on several pages. It's whatever is up to you. But we do start to see a bit of a correlation between the goals or among them. And so we'll start to talk about that in the second day so that we can at least start to see how maybe we bring some of them together, we start to prioritize, etc. And then we're going to work towards really making sure that we harness these goals. We get very clear on what they are, the impact on our lives, and how we are going to achieve them and maintain that course to achieving them every single day so that we really do feel as though, this is something that I'm going to check off my list, and in fact, potentially check off my list even sooner than I expected. And as I make that last statement about sooner than I expected, I want to share that I have taught this process to so many people. And the first piece of feedback that they always say to me when they see me, and usually when they see me, they come running up to me and say, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe this, but I achieved that goal that I said I was going to do. And not only did I achieve it, but I achieved it faster." And I think that's our biggest challenge with our goals, is that they actually, that we put them on a list and we think we're going to achieve them. We get caught up in life, but more importantly, we actually get overwhelmed because we actually don't think through the process. And so it feels like, like somehow I'll get to it. And I don't know if I can figure it all out. But once we actually break it into pieces and figure it out, we realized how achievable it truly is. And so my hope is that you're going to walk away at the end of this, and hopefully you'll join me for the bonus day, with some incremental tips and tricks that are really going to help you stay the course versus stray the course. And when you do fall off track, how to easily get back on track so that you are checking those goals off the list and you're checking them off even sooner than you expected. Part of the reason that I created this entire framework, which is actually part of a bigger framework. So we're focusing very much on goals right now, but I've created a process called the Life Blueprint process. And this is a piece of that bigger process. And I've pulled it out because I have found that it is one of the fundamental building blocks. And often when I am coaching people or working with some of my clients, I find that one of the key things they want to talk about is obviously their goals. There's usually this sense of discontent that they are not moving at the speed that they would have liked, or there are some things they want to achieve and they just simply have not been able to achieve them yet. Often it is partly because we just don't have this structure in place. So my bigger life blueprint structure takes this piece into consideration with your vision, mission, values, a whole bunch of other pieces. But this one in particular is also very akin to what we do in our day-to-day lives for work, as I just mentioned. So what we're actually going to do is follow this trajectory very akin to the way you likely have worked on business plans at work or done a lot of the reviews that you've done in order to build the plans that you have for work. Then what we're going to do is make sure that you incorporate it daily, weekly, monthly, so that that 1 or 2 or 3 year trajectory that you have for achieving that goal is very feasible. And what I've basically put in front of you right now as I show you these diagrams, this is exactly what we do at work. We put in that 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year trajectory. So I'm hoping you'll start to see some of the analogies, and that'll actually make this process even simpler for you. And in fairness, it's not a difficult process, honestly, at all. What is challenging at times is us taking or making the time and then sticking to the plans that we've actually put in place. But I think I've got some tips and tricks to help you do that. So let's get started. Today is day 1, and we're now a couple of minutes in, and I've been able to explain to you the method to my madness in this process. What we're going to start off with is actually an exercise that I am going to have you do here with me. And what I want you to do is work through the worksheet. I'm going to give you some directions, but I'm going to time the exercise. And I'm going to give you 3 minutes approximately to do the exercise, but please don't flip the page yet, and please don't start doing it yet. There is a method to my madness. So let me explain the method to my madness. When we are given an open range of time to do something, we do it at our leisure. And then what happens is that we often will second guess, rethink, reevaluate, reprioritize, all very important things. But there are other times when with certain exercises, we actually need the time constraints and the time sensitivity. And the reason that we need that is because it forces us impulsively to be truly authentic and transparent in the moment that we are in. So this way, we're not second thinking. We're not reprioritizing. We're coming to the table with exactly what we're thinking at that moment. So this very first exercise that we're going to do is going to have us sort of take stock of where we are as we're all sitting together going through this process today. And what I really want you to do is honor that. First of all, don't judge. Don't rethink. Just kind of be honest with yourself and say, this is where I am. This is truly a judgment-free zone. It's totally a safe space. You're welcome to share if you want to share, but you certainly do not have to share. This is for your learning and your own progress so that you can achieve your goals. So on that note, let me take you through the first exercise. So you're welcome to flip to this page, and all of the documents that I've given you are PowerPoints so that they're easily, able for you to go in and manipulate them and add whatever context you want to in the moment. You will see on this particular slide, there's obviously a chart here, and there's a bunch of parameters in the dark green across the top. Often these are the parameters that we use to provide perspective and evaluate our life to a certain extent. Like, how are we doing in these different areas? Evaluation feels a bit harsh, but they are the areas where we prioritize our time and our focus throughout our days and weeks. What I'd like you to do is identify, which one of these is your top priority versus, a priority that is your least priority. So there can only be number 1, number 1, number 2, 1, number 3. You have to literally be that disciplined for yourself. And then what I'd then like you to do is say, how am I doing against that priority? So earlier in the year, you may have identified, health is going to be my number 1 priority. So I'm going to put it as my number 1, and it still is my number 1. But in fairness, I haven't been exercising the way I thought I would have, or I've been taking my supplements or going to the doctor or whatever it is that you set as the tone for how you are going to manage your health. So what I'm going to do is give you 3 minutes on the clock. So I'm going to time it. I'm going to ask you to set your priorities, and I'm going to ask you to then evaluate how you're doing. And this is just for you to take stock right now as to where you are. And we are going to come back to this sheet after we've gone through our meetings towards the end of the week. So take a shot at it and be honest with yourself. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Kind of cool. I'm done. Do I have to share it or you don't
You
have
don't
time for
have,
that?
that's a great question. So no, actually, you don't have to share it, and everybody's got about 30 seconds left. So happy to provide some context here. You're welcome to share. If you had some revelations, some questions, concerns, challenges, you're welcome to share any of that if you have. If there's
Okay,
anything,
I'm fine.
absolutely welcome to share. You're also welcome to keep this to yourself. The objective really here is for you to see where you are right now. You know, a big challenge that many people face is balancing our goals. And that's why I have you do this. So kind of going back and forth on my answer here. So the other method to my madness in having you do this as you guys start to finish this off is that we're living our lives. You know, life is what happens while you're making other plans. And so we're living every single day. And at the same time, we have these goals that we want to achieve. So a big challenge that everybody has is they get absorbed in their day to day. And so how do you manage that? Live in the present, which we're all very much advised to do. And then at the same time, plan for the future and help make our goals happen, which we're also very much advised to do. It's a little bit of a challenging balancing act. Like if life isn't challenging enough to balance, you throw this equation into it. It's like, oh, how do I actually do all of this? It's I'm not doing nothing all day. If I was doing nothing all day, well, then I could figure this out. Often it's so challenging to figure it out and figure out how to map it out. So my hope is that you've sort of said, this is where I am. These are my priorities. Then we're going to go through a few other stages. Then we're going to come back to this. And we're going to make sure that we balance your priorities with living fully and being in the present every day. And at the same time, balancing working towards the future. Because that is in itself the great balancing act of life, is living in the moment, creating the future that we want so that we, leave this earth by having an impact, living with no regrets, etc., living fully, feeling fulfilled, all of those words that tend to come up as we're in conversation. So you will see we will come back to this chart as at the end of the week after we start to talk about some of the goals and take the next stages, and you'll start to see the relevance. So some of this will feel very fluid in the moment, and some of it you'll be like, not sure where that fits at this exact moment, but it will fit as we start to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So I'm just going to ask you to hold my hand virtually and kind of trust me through the process. and
I'm
and
doing it now.
thank you for that. And you'll see how it all comes together. Hopefully everybody has had a chance to complete this. Does anybody have any questions? And you can either, which I didn't say that anybody could do, so I apologize for that. You're welcome to type it in the chat. You're welcome to unmute yourself. Okay. Yep. So let's move on to the next part. You will then see that you have a chart that looks like this. Don't start on this chart just yet, but I know all of you will flip and be like, oh, I'm going to move on to the next thing. So I might as well show you the chart anyways. When we are going through this process and really trying to understand our goals and objectives, often there are things that hold us back. So you'll be, think of the last conversation with you that you had with one of your peers or a partner or colleague, and you were talking about something that you wanted to do. And they said to you, well, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and do that? And you said, well, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough knowledge. I need to do this, this, and this first. There's all these reasons that you may have had that, in fairness, could be totally justified. So I'm not passing judgment on them in any way, shape, or form. But you have all of these reasons, and these are, in fact, holding you back from achieving your full potential and, in fact, making these goals and dreams happen. So let's think about what some of these could be. A lot of them are fears. So we have, the great universal fear of failure. So we definitely, that tends to be a ubiquitous fear that we all have in some way, shape, or form. And so that tends to creep in when we're thinking about doing something. It's like, oh my God, I could do this. I could allocate the time and I could fail. And so this is where you kind of have to think about, oh, what's the worst thing that could happen really if you do fail? Is it really that bad? And should maybe we not take those steps? So I want you to think about some of your fears, and your fears could be from in your mind, even from sublime to the ridiculous. I've had students go through this process with me, and they'll have a huge fear of flying, a huge fear of spiders, a huge fear of this, that, and the other thing. Some things are not going to hold you back from potentially achieving your goals. And I'm in no way diminishing the fear of a spider, but chances are that may not inhibit you from achieving your goals. But fear of flying, if you want to be, a professional that goes on the speaking circuit and wants to do TED Talks all over the world, that would be a challenge for you. If you want to be a certain kind of parent, you want to take your children all over the world and have them have lots of experiences, but you have this huge fear of flying. So there are some fears that may, in fact, have an impact on our goals, and we have to figure out how to manage them. So that's kind of what fears are. So I'm going to describe each of these so that you start to trigger them. And you're welcome, as I'm triggering or explaining things and I'm triggering thoughts for you, to at least fill out that first column. And you're welcome to make many copies of this page so that you can, add more and more as you go along. There's a reason that the blocks are a certain size, because you'll see as I start to talk about the following columns, you're potentially going to need that space to think through things. But at first, I just want you to think about, what I'm going to take you through is the fears, the distractions, some derailers, and some limiting beliefs. So we've kind of talked about fears. Let's talk about distractions. Easy distraction for me to pinpoint these things. Let's be honest, guys. Anything from Instagram and our social platforms, Facebook, Candy Crush, or whatever suits your fancy, gaming, extracurricular activities that understandably we all need. We all need a bit of an outlet, but maybe we need to put some parameters around that outlet so that we're not on Instagram as an example for 4 hours a day. We're on Instagram for, I don't know, whatever the appropriate time is for you, 15 minutes or 30 minutes. I actually put a timer on my Instagram as an example, so that I go in it and I do what I need to do, and I take a look and I do my likes and loves, and then I move on. And that's it for the day. Once I hit that time limit, that's it. My time is up. So think about some of the things that distract you. My kids would laugh if I shared this with you, but one of my big, huge distractions, so I'll give you an honest one here, is housework. So I need everything to be clean and tidy and in its place before I can be productive, which kind of makes you wonder, like, is that real? And no, it's not real. And no, it's not critical or vital, but it's something that I like to have everything in its place before I feel that I can sit down productively. When really I can obviously have a nice clean space, sit down and work and fit the chores into when it makes sense to get them done. So you got to figure this out for yourself. Derailers and limiting beliefs kind of go together. They're the things where a derailer is a great example, is that you wake up in the morning and you have set your course for the day and you are full steam ahead. And then something comes along that you didn't expect and it throws you completely off track. And it could be an issue. It could be an opportunity. It could be a person. It could be a myriad of things. It could be, all of a sudden you have this massive storm and it throws out, all of your electricity, lots of different things that could throw you off. So what are those things that intuitively actually do throw you off, and that are, I don't want to use the words controllable, but they're relatively predictable? So, are there certain people in your life that you see every single day, as an example? And, you start the day off relatively buoyant and they don't. And so maybe you have to think through when you interact with them so that you go into your day buoyantly, or you manage your interaction with them so that they don't pull you off track. The last one that I'll kind of give some context around is limiting beliefs. What are limiting beliefs? These are the voices in your head that honestly need to not be in our heads. So this is the ultimate voice of second guessing. This is that second grade teacher who said, you're not smart enough to do that. Or that person who said, you don't have enough information, or you're going to fail at that, or you don't know how to do that. It's often the not enoughs, the not able, the all those things that make you feel like, oof, you're a few steps shy or several steps short of what is required to do something. And it's so frustrating because when you look at all of the people who have achieved huge milestones in their lives and in our world, insert a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs, we've all identified them as the crazy ones. They've been called the crazy ones. And they were told that they couldn't do many, many things. And they kind of went, yeah, I think I can figure this out. And I think if I figure it out, it's going to make the world a better place. And in fact, they have made the world a better place, so to speak. I mean, sure, we all have opinions on and narratives on what they've done, but the truth is they set a goal and they had all the naysayers. So who are your naysayers and what is it that they said? So think through as I'm talking to you some of this list. This is definitely something that I'd like you to continue to work on before we see each other again. And I'm going to have you do some further work on it actually right before we see each other so that you kind of put it in its place. Let me explain the other columns to you as you start to think about this list and start to plot some notes. The next column is really what is the source of this holdback, this thing, this fear, the limiting beliefs or whatever it is. What was the context? So like really think about, okay, where did I hear that voice? Where did I get that fear? When did this distraction start to become a thing? And really start to think about this for yourself and try to pinpoint it as best you can. Then think about the situation around it, because often there's a whole context that we forget about. The theory is that hindsight is 20/20 vision. And it's true, we get the learning by looking back at our history. But what we often forget is that we made a bunch of decisions and took a bunch of actions as a result of a total situation in that moment that, to be fair, at this particular moment, we probably can't remember. So when we talk about the 20/20, it's probably not 20/20. Sure, we're taking that key piece of learning, but we've forgotten so many of the other details that are extremely relevant. So think about the context. Think about what was happening when that grade 2 teacher said you're not going to be smart enough. Then I want you to think, as you are looking at the context, was any of this justified? And I'm asking that question, but you all know the answer that I want you to say. I mean, of course, I want you to say, no, it wasn't justified. And so dig into that. Dig into like, where did this come from? Did I stimulate this? Like, was I, doing something that made them think, was I being cheeky as an example? And so that's why they said it. I really want you to get to the root of it because, the truth is that none of these things are things that should be holding us back. So I want you to say, as you start to read it, oh my God, like what was that grade 2 teacher thinking? And all of you at some point have heard about people projecting and mirroring their own issues on us, etc. And that's what I'm hoping you'll start to see and realize as you go through this process for yourself. You'll have one of the Oprah aha moments where you say, you know what, this actually wasn't about me, and feel really confident in saying that. Then I want you to take a look at the next column, and this is where you really define the impact. Unfortunately, these things have held us back. They have made us stop in our tracks. And this is where it's like, oh my gosh, think about it. If you were giving your advice or giving advice to your very best friend, you would say to them, like, you've got this, like, don't listen to that person. And yet here you are listening to something or allowing something to distract you. So give yourself the advice you would give someone who you think is amazing in your life. Give that to yourself because you are amazing in your life. That's why you're here. That's why you've raised your hand for this. So take the time to really think about, how is this issue that I have filtering into my day-to-day and holding me back from being my full potential self? And then the last piece I want you to take a look at is, how can you stop it from holding you back? How can you put it in its place? What can you do? And it could be possible that actually going through this process is recognition and realization enough. But it could also be that you need to do some extra work. Maybe you have to do some extra work on your own. Maybe you have to put a time limit on your Instagram or on your activities or on when you're going to do your chores in your day. So you have to put things into buckets. Maybe you need to go and speak to a therapist or a counselor or a doctor. So defer to actually an expert. So let's identify what all of those things are. And then if, as an example, you need to put some of those measures in place, then put them in place. Put the time limit on. Put the parameters around things. Make the appointments. This is all really critical because what you really want to do is put a proverbial or a metaphorical line in the sand. What you want to do is identify all these things and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to leave you here because I'm going over here. I'm jumping over that line and I'm going to start to work towards my goals because I have a whole bunch of things I want to do over here. And all of this is stuff that's holding me back from crossing over that line. That's really, really tough to do because admittedly, those things are still going to play in the back of your mind. Chances are they are going to niggle away at you. You're going to be sitting working on something or moving forward on something, and you're going to have an insecurity. You're going to be like, oh gosh, today I don't feel my full strongest self. Or, oh my God, that voice in my head, wow, that kind of got triggered today. And that is all totally fair. But what I want you to remember is that you have done this exercise. You identified this particular issue or fear or whatever it is. And you said, I see you. I recognize you. In fact, I am paying homage and respect to you. But I'm also telling you, I'm leaving you here. For those of you who would like to take this even to one more step further, and this for some of you might feel a little bit extreme, but I'm going to share it with you because it's sometimes in doing the extreme, it actually impacts us so strongly physiologically that we actually don't fall into some of these repetitive patterns again. And in fact, when we start to get triggered, we're equally as triggered by the fact that we left these behind. And that's actually what rituals do, is that they are that really strong, aggressive trigger in our lives. So this is what I would like to propose, completely up to you if you'd like to do it or not. But what I actually suggest to many people that I work with is that you actually take this particular one. And once you have it fully fleshed out and you feel like you've just about covered everything, and, keep a copy for yourself that is blank so that this isn't necessarily a one and done. In fact, this entire process isn't a one and done. I'm hoping that I'm giving you something that's going to serve you ongoing as you grow and as you cross out goals and then add a new goal. But this particular process is something that you can do whenever something starts to rear its ugly head and you're like, I got to deal with you. So this is how I'm going to deal with you right now so that you don't hold me back. So what I propose to people is that they actually print this out or write it down so that they actually have a tactile copy of it in front of them. And then what I suggest that you do is that you rip it up, literally rip it up into a million pieces. And then when the opportunity presents itself, take it outside, perhaps on a not a rainy day when it's going to get smothered so easily, and go to a safe space outside or put it in a pot or container outside and actually burn it. And then once it's all burnt, let the cinders go into the universe. Just release it out into the air. Some of you are going to say, oh my gosh, like this is a little bit crazy and I haven't done something quite as aggressive as that before. And I know that for some of you, that's going to feel totally new and a little bit, like pushing the envelope more than you'd like. But let me just tell you what this exercise does. What's going to happen is 2 days from now or 3 days from now, when all of a sudden that issue starts to trigger in your head, you're going to remember that you burnt it. you're actually going to remember that you went through this exercise. If you don't do something that is to a certain extent has this bit of, drama or monumental activity to it, then we just sort of go on with it. And that voice tends to get louder and louder and louder. And it starts to creep in again. By actually doing something that is perhaps out of the norm, we actually trigger ourselves physiologically to realize I dealt with that, or I'm going to continue to deal with that. In the example of I need to defer to higher authority, see a therapist, talk to a doctor, whatever it is. So I'm going to continue to deal with that, but it's not going to stop me in achieving the specific steps that I said I was going to take today, tomorrow, and the next day. I'm going to keep moving forward. So think about that as you work through this. I would like to suggest that as you guys are working through this sheets and a couple of the sheets moving forward, that you potentially print them off, and ideally that you put them in a safe place. This is not something that has to be shared with anyone by any means, but you put them in a safe place where you can start to add to them over the next couple of days. What I'd really like to do, or like to ask you to do before we meet again, is really work through this one in particular, because you're going to probably have further thoughts as the day goes on. As I sit here, you've probably had some thoughts and been able to fill this out. But chances are, we have a limited amount of time. What I'd like you to do is to continue to work on this. And then before we meet again, ideally go through the process of some kind of ritual where you leave them behind. Does anybody have any questions on this before I take you to the next and last step before I let you go back to your day? Any questions out there?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I just want you to take a breath for a second. So just take a nice deep breath in and release it out. Just so we give ourselves a little bit of a break in what we're talking about, and maybe have a sip of water. If it was a perfect world and we had the time, I'd say to you, this is a great chance for you just to go outside for a few minutes and actually get some fresh air. But given how we've decided to all come to the table and seize this moment, I'm not going to actually have you take that time, but you definitely might want to do that before you do the next exercise on your own and complete it, because we're going to kick it off today. But you are definitely going to do this work when we are not together over the next couple of days. What I really want you to do is think about what you really want and ask yourself that question. What do I really, really want? Ask yourself that question over and over and over again. And as you ask yourself that question, I actually want you to either write it down in a notebook if you don't have this sheet with you, or print this sheet off and carry it with you, and maybe carry several copies of it. But I want you to specifically start off by focusing only on the green column. I want you to start off just by doing that. That is your number one priority. I want you to think of every goal that you can think of. Lose 20 pounds, buy a car, buy a house, have a family, whatever it is, what all your hopes and dreams, your travel dreams, literally think of everything. And to help you think about some of those goals, you could go back to here. And so the reason that you would go back to here is not to take a look at necessarily your priorities or, what you established earlier in the year, but these parameters may help you trigger what some of your goals are or were. So I'm saying are because you're in the process of achieving them, or were, you set them out, but perhaps you're, not on tracks to where you'd like to be just yet. So really start to use these as some triggers for what some of your different goals could be. And I've had goals from everything to, I want to really get my startup off the ground and make it sustainable and launch my product, to, I want to make sure that I'm talking to my mom once a day. Super important to me. So my family relationships are really important. And I want to make sure that I, have a family dinner once a week. So there is zero judgment, zero commentary on any of these. These are your goals and your goals alone. So list them all and don't hold back. And literally just keep going till you can't think of anything else And then when you can't think of anything else, go for a walk and you'll think of more. What I'd also like you to do is obviously you're going to start now, but then over the course of the day, as you add, I'd really like you to take a look at it before you go to sleep tonight. So it sounds really funny, but before you go to sleep, if you actually take a look at something like this, and ideally you'll print it out so that you have easy access. So if you think of something while you're brushing your teeth, you can quickly go add to it. You don't have to turn your computer on. But if you take a look at it before you go to sleep, you will continue to work on it while you're sleeping. And chances are you will have more goals to add when you wake up in the morning. So I would encourage you to do some of those little tricks to ensure you really uncover everything so that we come at this and it really serves you by the time we're finished our time together. And the last thing I'd like you to do, and I'm trying to really manage our time here, is, and you'll notice when I gave you these charts, I had these last two columns rather off in gray, because I really don't want you at first to start to evaluate everything. I really want you just to let it all out. Then what I want you to do is take a look at the goals and think about why it's important to you. Why did I even write this goal down? What is it about that goal that makes it important to me? And then how does it actually inspire me? So as an example, and I'll give you an example because I find that sometimes having examples just sort of helps everybody think through what does she really mean here? So if one of your goals is to lose weight, it's a really good personal example. And so I'll put here, why is this goal important to me? Well, it's important to me because I don't like how my clothes fit. I liked it better. I thought I looked better when I was a certain weight, etc. But the truth is, the reason that this goal really fuels me and inspires me as I dig deep is because when I am at a certain weight, I actually feel much healthier. I am much more vibrant in my personality. And plus, it leads to a bigger goal that I have. So often what happens is as we start to work through this, we're starting to realize, ooh, there's actually more to that weight loss goal than just the weight loss. It's actually about a health goal. And it's actually then about having a really good longer term sustainable health. You start to connect the dots when you see this huge list of goals that you've written, because chances are after you start to write these goals, you're going to see, I wrote lose weight here. I wrote exercise every day down here. Then further down, I wrote, I want to start considering other supplements and I want to start eating healthy. And you start to see that some of these goals could in fact be bundled. But as a starting point, you just kind of need to list them out. So don't start to worry about the bundling of them or prioritizing them or even judging them. What I really want you to do is just start to list them all as they rise up within you. And then go through the other two steps. So why it's important to you and how it actually fuels or inspires you, because there's a reason you added it to the list. I really just want you to go through this over the next day or so until we meet again. So you're to give you some perspective on clarity as we start to wrap up. We've got a few minutes left, and I will always leave some time for question and answer. And I will always linger longer if you have questions and we don't have sufficient time and people have to leave. I will linger until your questions are answered. So to provide you with a little bit of a recap, we started off with taking stock and you evaluated your priorities and you sort of gave yourself a grade for the sake of argument. I don't like that analogy, but that's kind of what you did. We're going to come back to this. So we'll come back to this sheet at the end of the week. Then what you did is you talked about the things that are holding you back in your life. Please continue to work on this. So this is, if we want to use the right word, homework, then please continue to work on this over the next couple of days so that you start to identify things. And you're going to identify things as you're going about your day, because you're going to realize that you said to yourself, I got to sit down and get this done. And something pulled you away from getting something done. So have that incremental awareness and then write it down and go through the process. And then what I'd really like you to do is go crazy on your goals. Literally go crazy. Go for the walk, listen to the music, have all the feels, Do whatever you need to do to stimulate as many as possible and keep this up somewhere where you can continue to add to it. And remember, first, foremost, and always that this is a judgment-free zone. So only you technically need to see this unless you want to share beyond you, but it is your story, your information. I am absolutely not going to judge. And it's up to you whether you share beyond your own screen and in your home. But please let it ride, man. Like, it's amazing what will come out if you just let it flow. And please commit to taking a look at it before you go to bed at night, because your mind will continue to wander. So those were the key things that I wanted us to cover as we sort of wrap up our time today. I want to leave room for questioning, and then you will see that we'll take these goals to the next step when we regroup next. So before I let you all go, please don't hesitate to raise your hand, ask any questions, voice any concerns, whatever it is, your time.
Thank you,
Anybody?
Nicole.
You're welcome, Toby. Any questions? Or you feel
No,
good?
I'm great. I haven't stopped typing while you're listening what you're talking. Just thought of a lot of things that I haven't been thinking about. I know what I want to achieve, but I haven't really asked myself why I really want them. Now I do. I just keep typing. Thank you for the process. It makes a difference.
The why is critical.
Yes.
There's been lots of studies on our why and the why for organizations and really understanding purpose. And we're not going to get into purpose in our particular goal conversation. That's something that I get into really deeply in the life blueprint process. So if any of you are interested in that, please don't hesitate to reach out and or go onto my website, and you'll get more detail on that. But really understanding our why for all of our actions is where the work is. When you hear people talking about doing the work is really asking yourself why. And when we get to the why, we actually figure out, can I address that why? Do I have incremental work to do? Like, what is it that is either pushing me forward or holding me back? And that's where the rubber meets the road in everything in life. Anybody else have any questions or concerns or comments before I let you go back into the rest of your day? And hopefully you feel a little bit more motivated and inspired and feel like, whoo, this is actually something where I can start to make a difference in my life.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say, like, now that I kind of get more clarity, so I can understand where can I start now, because I really had the thing of writing my goals every time after the New Year's, but somehow half of them I always forget about them or just feel that pressure. So I think now I know where to start. So think about it today, and yeah. Thank you. It
That's
was really
awesome.
inspiring. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. And so honestly, thank you for chiming in and even saying that. And I don't think you're alone. I think we all do this. I think we all start off the year or even at any point in our lives and we say, I'm going to do this. And we're determined and we're right. Like, we are going to do that. But then the problem is that life gets in the way. Life is what happens while we're making other plans. And so we have that plan and we're making that plan, but then it's like, you got to go to work, the car breaks down, you got to go get groceries and laundry and the whole list goes on and on and on. And so my hope is that you'll definitely get super clear on your goals. You'll get super clear on the motivation, and a combination of those two things, and then us taking it to the next step and really fine tuning it and laying out the milestones will help you achieve them. Well, I guarantee you it will, because I've taken a lot of people through this process, and at the end of it, they achieve their goals. And as I said to you at the very beginning, they achieve them faster. So I hope I could do that for you. That's my goal. That is my goal, actually. So there you go. Okay, friends, if there's no other questions or comments, then I am happy to let you go and set you free for the rest of your day. And I wish you all an amazing day. And I look forward to seeing you. Please remember to do the work that I've left for you. And don't sneak forward. Don't sneak forward. It's not worth it to sneak forward. Hold on to those other sheets, because let me explain them to you and provide context, and we'll do them together. The process is really where you start to see the results. So please trust me on that. Have a great day, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.